Peace, family. Welcome to another episode of Underground Railroad Productions. I got the pleasure of having the genius behind Hidden Colors in the building. We at the National Black Theater. I got Tariq Nasheed with me today. And I just seen the brother on the Breakfast Club this morning. So it was a great interview with Charlemagne, DJ Envy, and Angela Yee. And I'm glad I got the opportunity to interview the brother while he's in New York. I guess just to start out with, brother, tell the people about Hidden Colors 4 and what can they expect from Hidden Colors 4 that they didn't get in 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah. Well, Hidden Colors 4, it's basically an extension of the other 3 Hidden Colors, but this time our focal point is going to be on white supremacy itself and the religious aspect of white supremacy, because a lot of black people, we don't understand the depths that the white supremacists will go to maintain the system. So we want to let people know how white supremacy is like a religion. And I got that concept from my brother Neely Fuller. He wrote in his book, The Compensatory Code Concept, how white supremacy was actually a religion and a belief system. And when people have a religion and a belief system, it doesn't need logic to be maintained. Just the belief of it will maintain it alone. And we have to understand this is how the white supremacists think. And we need to form counter codes to that religion. So this is what the film is really going into.
Now, what do you think about, I noticed a trend. Umar Johnson was on the Breakfast Club. Dick Gregory was on the Breakfast Club. Louis Farrakhan was on the Breakfast Club. Boyce Watkins was on the Breakfast Club. And now Tariq Nasheed is on the Breakfast Club. So what do you think about this going more mainstream? Why is mainstream becoming more accepting to this information that was, because it was underground. And what really made it more commercial was Hidden Colors. A lot of people that wasn't conscious, all of a sudden, it's like a light bulb went off when Hidden Colors came out. So why do you think the mainstream is embracing this? Because I heard you use the term in the interview, backside compliment. Is that the proper way? Is there some game behind them doing this? Do you think there's some type of ulterior motive behind consciousness becoming more mainstream?
You know, when we did the Hidden Color series, one thing I wanted to appeal to the younger audience, because a lot of times when we hear movies about history or documentaries about black history, we automatically think it's going to be boring because it's just going to be the same slave story that we've been hearing. So what I did, I wanted to make something that was interesting, something that was edited very quickly so that people wouldn't get bored, and I wanted to put very interesting speakers in there. And also I wanted to mesh the older generation with the younger generation. So this is why I had a lot of scholars who'd been around for a while, and I put a lot of rappers in the movie too. And that's the thing that kind of made it a little more mainstream. You had a lot of rappers co-signing it, and I got some of the best rappers in the world in the series. KRS-One, Nas, my man Killer Mike, David Banner. So now that that film has come out and a lot of young people gravitated towards it, they've elevated it to the point where pop culture is forced to look at it. So now the hip hop stations and all of these people are getting into it. So I think it's a very genuine interest in it.
A person on TV, the mainstream media, like say if I was Bill O'Reilly sitting right here, he might refer to someone like you as a race hustler. What would you say to these whites in dominant society that see what you're doing? To us, we're like, yo, thank you, brother. But to them, they're trying to tell as many people as possible that you're a race hustler. So what do you think about that?
See, the thing is, we got to be very clear and ask these people, what do they mean when they use terms like race hustler? We have to ask them, what do they mean when they use terms like race card? Hold on, let me go. All right, go. When we get questions from the Bill O'Reillys and people in the dominant society, we need to ask them to define what do they mean by race hustler, and also that race card thing they keep throwing out. Because whenever I ask the white supremacist suspect, what do they mean by the race card, they can never answer that question. Because I want to know, what area of activity do we have in our society that's not already dominated by race? See, we're called racist for calling out white supremacy. We call our racism, you're the racist. That's ass backwards thinking. So we got to let them know that. And we got to find out from them, where is race or white supremacy absent in anywhere in our society? That's the question that we throw back to them.
the name for Hidden Colors Part 4, the religion of white supremacy, right? Some people feel as though words have energy to them. Their frequencies, they have energy, and they affect us subconsciously, subliminally. When you say white supremacy, some people will feel that you're giving them more power. You're empowering them more by calling them supreme. And what they really are is inferior, a white inferior. They have a white inferior complex. I think Dr. Wilson said that. It was
fear of genetic annihilation.
Okay. Now, so what do you think about by you calling this the religion of white supremacy? You continue to empower this idea that somehow they're superior instead of calling them out for what they really are, scared and inferior.
And now we got to go back to Dr. Welsing. Dr. Welsing said supreme or superior means I can kill you with impunity. That's all it means. And we are in a system where we can be killed, people who have melanin, by the dominant white society. They can kill us with impunity and we can't do it to them. Therefore, they're in a superior position. So we've been outgunned. So when we say superior, it doesn't mean genetically superior, doesn't even mean smarter. Like if a sick psycho who has mental problems step to you with a gun and he has a gun on Cornel West. Cornel West is smarter than this guy. He might have more money than this guy, but the crazy guy with the gun is in a superior position. And that's how it is with the white supremacists. And what we have to do, we got to be honest about being in a situation where we're dominated by white supremacy. See, what we try to do, we try to come up with little code words and things to minimize the emotional vanquish because of that. We don't like to be called inferior. We don't like to feel that we're in an inferior position. So we say it's not that bad. Well, white people, they ain't nobody. Yeah, they're somebody. And they can dominate us and do whatever they want to do to us. And we got to acknowledge that and come up with ways to figure out how to counter that, because we don't know how to successfully counter that. That's why we're marching around the country, talking about hands up, don't shoot, walking around with signs, because we don't know how to counter white supremacy.
What do you think about the Black Lives Matter movement?
Yeah, Black Lives Matter movement, I think, is controlled opposition. Whenever you see something on television that they keep promoting over and over, look at Black Lives Matter, look at Black Lives Matter, that's controlled opposition, because they know the so-called leaders of Black Lives Matter, they've been vetted by white supremacy. George Soros, he funds Black Lives Matter. So that's a white-funded organization, just like the NAACP, to be honest. And in Hidden Colors 4, we talk about the hidden agenda of the NAACP. We go into that. But with Black Lives Matter, if you notice, whenever they get on television and it's time to talk about black issues, they will immediately start talking about lesbian issues, gay issues, transgender. They'll start talking about something else, and that's by design. So we have to start watching the people that the white supremacists are putting in front of us, telling us that they're our leaders. Because they have this big thing about telling us that these Black Lives Matter people, they're the black leaders now. So watch that.
Indeed. Now, on the Breakfast Club, I was watching an interview this morning, and one of the things you said was that white supremacy, I think you made a reference to Jay-Z about him being successful, and people think racism doesn't exist because they see brothers like Jay-Z or whatever. And you said something to the effect of white supremacy will only allow a certain amount of blacks to be successful. Now, one term that always comes up with brothers that come with knowledge of self like yourself is people often say we have a victim mentality. We're always playing the victim role. We're playing the victim role. So my question to you, brother, is that how can white supremacy allow you to be successful if you didn't ask them for permission to do what you did? You did your damn thing. You just went ahead and did it. So imagine if there's 300,000 Tariq Nasheeds who's going to do their thing regardless of what system they're in. How is that how is white supremacy even effective if everybody is thinking like you? How is white supremacy even allowing somebody to be successful if brothers had the mentality business-wise that you had?
See, the thing is, it's controlled numbers. Every blue moon, there's somebody that will slip out. Every blue moon, there's a Marcus Garvey that's going to slip out of there. But the minute he becomes effective, then that's a problem. Like with the Marcus Garvey movement, it was cool until they got those ships, until they got millions of people ready to do business with Africa, and he wanted to go over there and create a Pan-Africanist view. Then it became a problem. Even with Malcolm X, when he went international, then it became a problem. So when it starts to get effective, then it's going to be a problem. So this is why with the Hidden Colors series, I just didn't do it alone. I had a lot of people involved. So now I'm not going to be just targeted, because that's the thing. They'll put that leader thing on you. And I tell people all the time, I'm not no leader. Don't make me out to be your black leader. All of us should have the same code. It should be a whole bunch of us so that not one person will be targeted. Because the thing is, we have a thing where they will elevate one person, and the white supremacists, they're very good at elevating one black person. They love that. They love getting a Jay-Z and an Oprah and showering them with wealth and endorsements and props and praises, because they know they can take all that back anytime they want to. Look at Prince. Prince is gone right now, and they have $1 billion catalog just up in the air, and that's when it falls down, it's going to fall down on some white hands.
Since you mentioned Prince, let's get into a little pop culture. I see a lot of people praising Prince. He's a genius. He plays several instruments, got classic hits, timeless music. Prince walked around in high heels. He looked very feminine, very, very feminine. When you look at some of the up-and-coming rappers, let me just use Young Thug as an example. If I said, yo, man, I'm listening to this new Young Thug, they say, nigga, you supposed to be conscious and you listening to Young Thug? Man, that nigga Rich, he bugging out. But now if I say, oh, man, I'm jamming it, I was just seeing Purple Rain with Prince, man, and I'm listening to When Doves Cry, they be like, oh, that brother's a genius. So it almost seems like there's a contradiction with who's allowed to be feminine and who's allowed not to. It reminds me of, in terms of white supremacy, they don't like niggas, but if you're Michael Jordan, they might fuck with you. If you got that much talent, they'll say, I don't like niggas, but you know you not a nigga. You good enough. You so good with your talent that I'm not going to put you on the same level as the rest of them niggas. So is that the same mentality with blacks, where we condone homosexuality with brothers like Young Thug, but Prince is so talented, you know what? I'm going to let this brother slide.
See, the thing with Prince, man, I think that brother was dainty like a fox. I think it was dainty like a fox. See, in the system of white supremacy, an effeminized black man is more accepted. And I think Prince got up on that game early in the game. He said, okay, let me get my foot in the door, because I'm going to be a feminine black man. I'm non-threatening. I got the perm. I got the high heels. So I'm non-threatening. So they'll welcome me in the door. Now, in black society, we saw Prince with the heels and the eyeliner, but Prince would have all the bad chicks from the 80s. Sheila E., Vanity, he had all the bad ones. So we kind of gave him a pass. I'm like, well, damn, do I need to put some heels on to get one of them? You know, he was one of the few people we would get a pass to, because we saw how he was getting down and we saw the game. So Prince was, again, dainty like a fox. He was like, yeah, I got the eyeliner on, but y'all gonna give me my money. Once he got in the door, he learned the business, and he learned how to get his paper, and Prince stayed on top of the game, and he stayed ahead of the curve in the music industry, because this guy was one of the most successful black independent artists. Understand, Prince was an independent artist later on in his career, and this brother toured around the world and was very successful, and he was able to get his catalog back from 2 years ago, and that's what they didn't like. Just like with Michael. Michael was dainty. Michael got that Sony catalog. They don't like that. They don't like a black man getting in the door, then flipping on him. You know who else done that? Byron Allen. Byron Allen, he's a billionaire. Now, Byron Allen, he played the corny black man role. See, Byron Allen, people looked at him as just another corny comic. He was, did these little corny jokes in the 80s and 70s, and they let him in. Like, he's non-threatening. But Byron Allen went in there, learned the game, and then all of a sudden, people looked up, and this dude had $500 million, just out the blue. So cats got to know how to play that game a little bit. So I pop my collar to people like Byron and Prince and Michael. If you're dainty like a fox, don't just put on some eyeliner and you ain't got no real agenda. I'm just saying.
So with that being said, do you think your approach is too direct? Do you think you should be more strategic? Because Hillary's doing the nay-nay. She's doing she's doing dance. She's kissing black babies. She's at Black Girls Rock. So for what you're accomplishing, not trying to accomplish, do you think you should be, be a little more strategic, hug some white people out there or something? You know what I'm saying?
See, and that's the thing. All I'm doing is talking about history. I haven't said nothing about harming white people. I didn't even say anything in none of the movies about how white people are just bad and evil. We didn't say that. All my movies do is talk straight history. This happened at this date, that happened at that date. Now, if they mad, you got to be mad at yourself, white supremacists. We're just reporting history. So we stay on code. This is not a bash the white person type of film series. All we do is talk about history, talk about our history as African people, and then we talk about what we did wrong to become disempowered. So that's nothing that we need to hide. Because we got this thing. I have people who have hidden colors and they kind of have to sneak it at their job, and they don't want to talk about it at work, and some of their family members are uncomfortable about it. So we got to get out of that thing where we have to hide and sneak to talk about our history because the dominant society is uncomfortable. Look at Beyonce. Now, Beyonce is talking about a lot of black empowerment stuff, and you got the white supremacists going in on this sister. So we, as a community, we have to start checking the white supremacists for attacking our people for simple pride.
Speaking of Beyonce, did you see the Lemonade? You haven't?
I've been on tour, so everybody keeps telling me.
Okay.
I gotta see it.
What I want to ask you is, she's kind of getting, from what I see, the people I talk to, she's kind of getting attacked from two different angles. Of course, white supremacy, they don't like, anything, she's got such a level that they don't want to hear anything conscious come out her mouth. But also, a lot of black men are upset. They feel as though her message is anti-man. It's this black feminist agenda she's pushing. So, I look at things through analogies, and I see how when we fight against the system of white supremacy, and we're just saying we're against police brutality, and they call us anti-cop. Right. But we didn't say we hate cops. We just saying we anti-police brutality. Right. So is that the same thing? Do you think Brothers is doing that with Beyonce? She's just talking about uplifting women, but they're taking it in another way, and they're looking at it as her being anti-man, the same way cops call us anti-cops when we try to, fight against police brutality?
And again, I have to see what exactly is being said. Now, if she's talking, from what I understand, I think she's talking about men cheating, stuff like that. So if you're not a cheater, you don't have anything to worry about. So, but the thing is, when they talk about us being anti-cop, understand, and we got to change our language, because Neely Fuller gave us some of the game. He said the people who go out here and target black people, these are not really cops. These are race soldiers, and we have to start using the term race soldiers who are pretending to be cops. Just like in Nazi Germany, you had Nazi soldiers who were the police who were killing Jewish people. Now, after the Holocaust and World War II happened, years later, you have these Nazi soldiers who are still alive. They find these people all over the world and take them to court. And when they go to court, they say the same thing. Well, I was just doing my job as a cop. I was just same thing they say now. I was just doing my job. I was doing what I was told. And they were like, no, you are not a cop. You are committing war crimes and you're going to jail. So we have to deal with these race soldiers the same way. You cannot be a bad cop, because if you're a police officer, you wouldn't kill people based on race. So you're a race soldier pretending to be a cop, and that's what we have a problem with, not police brutality.
I like you. I'm glad you brought up that example of the cops in Nazi Germany, because that's the excuse they always run with. I'm just doing my job. They told me that plenty of times when I got stopped, man. I'm just doing my job, man. So I'm glad you brought that up.
When Walter Scott, I noticed when Walter Scott, the brother in South Carolina, got shot in the back by that white dude, they interviewed the cop's mother, because they always try to make a sympathetic angle for the cop. And she was on the news where my son was just doing his job, that same Nazi stuff. So we got to watch that, watch the language they use, and then codify our language.
Now, what do you think about these victims? It seems like every time it happens, the victims get a huge payout. Do you consider that selling out, for lack of better words, from the family members, that they're taking these large these $1 million settlements? I think the most recent one is Tamir Rice. Yeah. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, the case with like Tamir Rice, and look, I helped the family out when that happened. I helped pay for his funeral. A lot of people don't know that. And I gave the mom a lot of advice on what to say, what not to say in the media. And that's why I'm glad. I don't think she was rocking with Hillary. She didn't let Hillary con her. And I wish these black mothers would leave Hillary alone, stop letting Hillary use you. But I digress. But it's a double-edged sword with some of these payouts, because when these black children are killed, a lot of times the family, they don't have the money to get these lawyers to keep on fighting these cases. So sometimes, you just got to go ahead and take that payout. But this is the catch-22. When you take that payout, they make you sign waivers saying that there's no wrongdoing, that you're not going to file a civil case, because they don't want these cases to go to the Supreme Court. because now we're going to start getting into that Constitution. And they always pay you out before you start tampering with that Constitution, because black people getting shot like this, that's a violation of the constitutional law, because 14th Amendment, we're supposed to get equal protection under the law. I want some of these cases to reach the Supreme Court, because then that'll change a lot of stuff. But unfortunately, a lot of these families don't have the money for that. So what we're going to have to start doing is pooling our resources together. And that's why I created a think tank and a nonprofit, melanoidnation.org, to help out families. And we're going to have to start helping people with legal fees to take some of these cases all the way to the Supreme Court. Just like our brother Akai Gurley, his constitutional rights were violated completely because they gave this cop a slap on the wrist and let him free, basically. So now there is no real justice for this brother. We're not getting equal. He was convicted, but it was a slap on the wrist, which basically encourages more race soldiers. Just like Trayvon Martin. Trayvon Martin, his constitutional rights were completely violated. We kept talking about the stand your ground law and all the rights Zimmerman had, but nobody talked about Trayvon Martin's constitutional rights. See, we got to get into that Constitution. So the payoff thing is a double-edged sword, and I get it, and I won't condemn the families for doing that, but we as a community need to have a pool of resources to take these cases to the next level.
In dealing with this system of white supremacy, a lot of brothers, when I'm in the forums, I'm reading the comments on YouTube or wherever I'm at, a lot of brothers, it seems as though, feel as though black women bought into the system of white supremacy much more than the black man. So you have this huge movement of, fuck the black woman. She's, she goes hand in hand with the white man. Shit, the white women show us more. I even heard brothers say the white women show us more support than black women. So what do you think about this whole movement of men who feel as though black women, whether it's through her getting benefits, whether it's her working side by side with the white man, this whole movement of brothers who feel as though she bought into the system way more than we did. And in order for me to find a woman, shit, I got to go out the country. There's brothers I know that go out the country to say they refuse to mess with an American black sister because of the programming in their mind.
But I think that's a cop-out, because look at some of these brothers out here. Look at some of the brothers that are brought into the system of white supremacy, or who are allowed to work in proximity with the white supremacists. For example, turn on ESPN. ESPN is coon fest. Just a bunch. Stephen A. Smith, Charles Barkley, just all these niggas cooning it up with these white people, and they're worse than the women, if that's the case. Because I don't even see sisters cooning like that. You didn't. These dudes go hard in the paint. So it's cooning on both sides. So brothers, we can't do that. We can't point the finger at them, because we're all in the system of white supremacy. Now you do have some bedwenches out here that will go that extra mile to do negative things to the black community. You have coons and bedwenches. So the Stacey Dash, like for every Stacey Dash, though, we have a Larry Elder. You think? For every stump for Trump girls, we have a Jesse Lee Peterson. You think? So it's balanced with men and women, and we got to create a situation where we can reward and punish the coons and the bedwenches.
There's a lot of finger pointing going on, and I want us to soak up some game from Tariq Nasheed right now, man. Since we're talking about pop culture, you give us some Mac lessons right now, brother. One of the things Beyonce in the documentary she talked about, she was telling a poem, and she was saying the same hurt her grandmother went through with men, she went through, her mother went through, and now she's going through. So she talked about multiple generations of women going through pain for men who don't appreciate them and cheat on them. Then you have artists like Chris Brown that make songs like These Hoes Ain't Loyal. So you got it coming from both sides. You got the women who said you niggas ain't shit. Then you got the men who saying you hoes ain't loyal. So how do we connect? Give us some game here, brother. How do we connect back with each other? Because there's a ton of finger pointing, brothers saying they ain't no good sisters, the sisters saying they ain't no good brothers.
See, that's why I did relationship books, and then I transition into history documentaries. And there is a correlation between relationships and race. There's always that elephant in the room, especially in black society. All of our problems in black society, as far as relationships, they go back to white supremacy. Because in a system, you got two people who are dominated, and us being dominated by the white supremacists, it has an adverse effect on how we interact with each other. That goes back to the plantation. A black man and woman are trying to have a relationship while in captivity, but then you have this other entity who can go get your woman and take her up in the big house and do what he wanted to do with her. In some cases, the white master could do the same thing with the black male and do what he wanted to do with them. Also, they could do what they wanted to do with the children. We still have that in our society now. Understand, black men and women, they were together up into the 1960s. Then we regressed back into that slave mentality because in the 60s, black marriages were thorough up until around 1963, 64. And what happened with that? They put out the new Civil Rights Bill and they started to have Section 8 and they started to give certain benefits to say to black women, hey, you don't need him no more. We have this over here for you. They started to get more programs and set-asides for the women. And also, this is another thing we forget. In the 1960s, they sent a lot of brothers over to Vietnam. So the pool of black men here were, or even men in general, remember, in the 60s, white men who didn't want to go to war, they went to Canada or they became hippies. So they sat around, grew their hair long, and smoked weed. And black men who didn't want to go to the war, they just hit the streets and became drug dealers, pimps, hustlers, like that movie with Lorenz Tate, Dead Presidents. You'll remember his character went to Vietnam, came back to his lady, and his lady had a hustler. It was his pimp hanging around the lady. So that was real life back then. So a lot of the thorough, straight and narrow brothers were sent off, and the pool of women and the pool of men here were the street guys and the shiesty guys and the guys who were not really set to raise families. This is why you see a lot of people at 46 years old or younger who grew up without fathers. That's where you have these dudes who didn't know their dad. All of them are like 46 years old and younger. And that started in the 60s. And again, we have to look at the culprit, which is white supremacy. So you can't take race out of the equation. So we have to understand that and work around that so we don't have that venom towards each other. Because that's the thing. We, black men and women, we just have venom towards each other that was given to us by the white supremacists, period. So whenever we interact with each other, there's always going to be us ready to jump bad at each other. But a white person couldn't come along and be the same way, and we don't have that venom towards them. We'll give them a pass. So we got to get that venom for each other out of our system.
I want to talk with you a little bit about this Africa Bambaataa situation. I did a show about 2 weeks ago on it with Professor Griff. And in the comment section, a lot of brothers came out and said they got touched up as a child. No. Just in general. Just in general. So it seems to be, and like I said with Griff, growing up, the more girls I started talking to, I just kept hearing it. Like, yeah, I got molested. Yeah, I'm like, God, how many of y'all got molested? Like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I didn't know it was that much. The older you get, the more you find out. They say hurt people, Tariq Nasheed. Is what we're seeing a product of hurt people? All this madness going on in our community. If that's the case, I heard a brother use the analogy of vampires. Like once a vampire gets bit, they no good. They're a vampire for life. Is it the case with our people where once they get molested or touched up as a child, they're no good? Because a person, the first thing they'll say is, that must have happened to Ban. If it's true, it must have happened to Ban when he was young, and that's why he's doing it to other people. So is that what we're witnessing now? And if that's the case, I mean, shit, do we throw these people away just because are they like vampires? Are they no good anymore?
And you know what, we talk about this in Hidden Colors 4. We go deep into this because a lot of that started on plantations where black people were bred. So we had to not only have sex with men, women, children, whatever, we would have to have sex with our relatives. So there was a lot of sexual deviancy. There was no type of barometer or level to sexual deviancy. So we just did anything pertaining to sex. And that type of mentality is still prevalent. And you touched on a good point. There were a lot of sisters who were molested as children. And if there's a lot of sisters who were molested, there are a lot of brothers who were molested. But that's something that's not talked about in black society at all. The brothers getting molested because you don't want to. Nobody wants to admit that. Now people are coming out with this whole Africa Bambaataa thing, and I've heard rumors about BAM for years. By the way, there's been rumors about that for everybody. Yeah, it's been going on for a long time. Well, allegedly, from what I heard. But the thing is, we need to get our resources together again and have programs and have centers and have community centers and have psychologists in our own community who can talk about that. Dr. Welsing was one of the few people who talked about psychology, sex, and race. We put race into it too. There are a lot of places around the country, and we talk about this in Hidden Colors 4, where black people are that have higher rates of molestation and incest. A couple of places like Baltimore, a couple of places like Virginia, places like New Orleans. These places have high instances of molestation and incest. The reason why, go back in history. These three places were some of the major slave breeding places. They had the biggest slave breeding farms in those three places. Again, a lot of the behavior we have, it was initiated during slavery. Right now, the highest AIDS rates are in New Orleans, in Louisiana. Yeah, it's big down there. There's a lot of homosexuality with black men down in New Orleans. And what we have to do is look at the French. When the French was down there, the French slave owners were raping black boys like it was crazy, like it was going out of style. So it became normal down there. So they've normalized it down there. And I'm not saying all people who are gay have AIDS, but there's a lot of black men with AIDS down in New Orleans. And again, incest is very high on the coast of Baltimore and in Maryland, because you had a lot of the slave breeding farms out there, and it became normal to have sex with your cousin, your sister. So all that garbage that we have from slavery, we have to charge that to the game, and we have to talk about it and not keep trying to bury that under the rug, because it just perpetuates itself and we act it out on each other today.
Some people feel as though when you say things like that, you make it seem as though black people didn't have pathologies before slavery. And all of these pathologies just suddenly emerged due to slavery. So what would you say to somebody who's saying, Tyreke, so what are you saying? You saying that incest didn't exist, or violence didn't exist, or, whatever sickness you could think of, they'll say, are you trying to say that this just came up because of the European and it didn't exist before?
Brother, I've been all over Africa. Show me single parenthood in Africa today. You don't have a bunch of single mothers running around having babies just to be having them, or teen mothers in Africa, unless it's like a war-torn country. You don't have that. You don't have a bunch of incest going on over there in Africa. Go back into ancient Africa, especially West Africa. You didn't have dudes raping each other. You didn't have that. A lot of the stuff that we pick up, we got directly from being victimized by the white supremacists. That's a fact. Even our eating habits. Look at, if you go back in history, Africans were the healthiest people on the planet. There were really no diseases in Africa other than sickle cell, and that was a so-called disease in order to get rid of malaria. But there were no sicknesses in Africa like that. We were some of the healthiest people. Our minds were right, and once we came in contact with the European, then all things went to hell. But we got to be very honest about that. A lot of the garbage we picked up is from being around the white supremacists. That's a fact.
In terms of this black man, black woman dynamic, what do you think about how some people will say that women should dress more traditional? Like Erykah Badu made comments, and women are more, they're having this sexual revolution where, they want to have, at least in pop culture, where they want to be free to have, they want to have sex like a man has sex. And what I mean by that is not being judged. They call it, slut shamming. You got Amber Rose with her movement and other people with the movement in the media. Do you think that, because for years it's been okay for a man to be a little more promiscuous in the black community, do you prefer it this way, where women should have more freedom in terms of sexually like a man, or do you think we both gotta cool it a little bit when it comes to not only how we dress but who we are intimate with?
See, that whole slut shaming thing, that was something given to us by the white supremacists. That was given to us by the white feminists. See, they'll bring stuff to us that they don't bring to their own community. For example, they will promote in black society, they'll tell black women, you're independent. It's good to be independent. In white society, white women don't play that independent thing. Independence is a negative in white society. But we, in our community, we run around bragging about it. Overweight women in our community, the white supremacists will prop that up. They'll put a fat black woman on TV, on Precious. I look at daytime television, and it's always a group of skinny white women and one fat black woman on damn near every channel. So they prop that up. But overweight white women in white society, they shame them. They're hell on a fat white woman. Remember Jenny, what's that chick? what's that white girl, that real dingy chick, Jessica. She was married to one of those Backstreet Boys type of dudes. Jessica Simpson, yeah. She gained weight. They went in. They shamed the hell out of her. They called her all types of fat whores. These white people, they shamed her. They don't play that in white society. Also, white society, they don't like homosexuality. Main straight white society don't like open homosexuality, they don't like it. A gay white man, he's not really respected within straight white society. In black society, see, this is where we get tripped up. They'll get a gay black man and bring him in white society and shower him with everything because he's non-threatening. So now that gives the impression that white people welcome homosexuality. Then black people are told, well, the black community is homophobic. See, we get told that all the time. We're not creating anti-gay laws. The white supremacists are doing that. They're creating all these laws about white people can't, or gay people can't go to the bathroom. That's them doing that. We have gay choir directors, gay church members. A white gay man can't go up in a white church. No, a openly gay white man up in a church, a white church, they'll burn him and that church down. They don't play like that. But again, with us, they look at certain things and promote certain things with us that they don't promote in white society. For example, like Hillary Clinton. Now, she wouldn't dare go into the white community doing the damn dab and the nay and doing all that silly nigga shit, because that's what it is. But they come around us with the silly nigga shit because they look at us as silly niggas. So certain things that they do in white society, they wouldn't do in our society. So we have to start checking that.
You know, somebody sent me a picture, an Instagram pic. Somebody texted me an Instagram pic, and they was like, yo, look at little Kim. And she looks, did you see it? The pic that's going around? I mean, did you see it? She looks completely different from, yeah, I did. Yeah, I'm glad you said that. I didn't want to say, I'm glad you said that. When I was young, you know, we in high school watching TV, in the pop culture, that used to be a white thing, plastic surgery. We used to be like, yo, them white folks, man, they be fucking up. The only person I knew was Michael Jackson, really, who had plastic surgery. But other than that, it was like a white thing, and hood girls wasn't fucking up their bodies, like cutting their bodies open and all of that stuff. Where did the change happen where it became cool for hood girls from the projects, to save up their income tax to go have breast implants and ass implants, and to change features on their face to get their nose a little more? Because it came out the blue. It surprised the shit out of me. I didn't see it at all when I was young. Then out of nowhere, it's like they're proud of it now. They're like, yeah, I had plastic surgery, and what? They got Dr. Miami. They got footage on YouTube and Periscope of them having these surgeries. Yeah, it was Scott. So how did this happen, brother?
And Lil' Kim, you know, she was so beautiful in the 90s. That melanin, she was a beautiful sister. She really didn't have to touch herself. But the reason why so many of us were getting into that plastic surgery thing and the making the alkaline noses and the bleaching and all that is because white supremacy has become more deadly. And in a deadly system of white supremacy, blackness is always seen as a target. So subconsciously, we want to do something to protect ourselves. So we think if we look a little less black, we'll get that job. Because we feel the vitriol from the dominant white society. When you walk in a room and they look at you for being too black, we feel the threat. We know that we're a threat. So we try to lighten that up to protect ourselves to a certain degree. It's really a defense mechanism. Because blackness, especially with black women now black women were hands-off for the violence of white supremacy for a long time. They would target black women economically, but now we have the Sandra Blands. We have sisters out here getting shot and beat down and attacked by the white supremacists. So now it's a protection factor, unfortunately.
How do you feel about, I noticed, you know, like you said, white supremacy has gotten worse. During the Obama era, it was like shit just went haywire with the cop shootings, all of that. I even, a lot of blacks felt as though the whites that were their quote unquote friends were like, they was cool with these conspiracy theorists like Alex Jones. They thought if you told them what really happened with 9/11, you had to be down with us. It's like Alex Jones came out the closet with his white supremacy. And a lot of them did so. How did that happen? Where Alex Jones, even the conspiracy theorists that Black thought was on their side, they just like, fuck it, you niggas, man, shit, I'm Trump all the way.
Exactly. And yeah, Alex Jones, he's white supremacist number one. I always tell black people, because black people like to start talking about the Illuminati and all of these conspiracies. Yeah, a lot of black people start getting into that Illuminati talk and the Bilderberger group and all that. And the white supremacists, people like Alex Jones, they're very good at throwing those Illuminati stories and the Bilderberger groups, because that takes focus away from white supremacy. Because when you start talking about white supremacy, they'll be the first to throw up a smoke screen. Oh, it's not the whites, it's the Jews. It's the Jews and the Bilderbergers. And they love talking about the Jews. Anytime, if it's the Jews, why is it, if it's Jewish supremacy, not white supremacy, why is it that African Jews now over in Israel are going through hell? You have some of the oldest Jews in the world from Ethiopia going into Israel, and the Israel government is giving them hell. They're being discriminated against. They're being beaten. So where's their supremacy? How come they're being beaten? Well, it's white supremacy. That's what I thought. It's all white supremacy. It has nothing to do with religion. White supremacy is its own religion. So when they start talking about the Illuminati, you're talking about a different branch of white supremacy. When you talk about the Trilateral Commission, that's just another branch of white supremacy. You talk about the Bilderberger Group, that's another branch of white supremacy. When they say, well, Barack Obama is the most powerful man on the planet, bullshit. Barack Obama is powerless. He's a puppet for white supremacy. He's nothing but a mascot. That's why he cannot do anything for other black people. He is controlled by the white supremacists. And we got to stop letting them put tokenized black people in our face. It seem like that's some kind of racial progress.
What do you think about, speaking of Obama, and you know, a lot of people, I heard you, I seen your show you did on symbolic victories, with the Harriet Tubman being on the bill. A lot of people looked at Barack Obama's presidency as a symbolic victory for black people. Although they said he may not do nothing politically, symbolically it meant a lot for the children to see. Do you think us being a symbol-driven society, even though Obama politically ain't doing nothing, even though Harriet Tubman, we know that her being on the front and Andrew Jackson being on the back, we know what that's all about. But do you think that symbols are more powerful than politics to people that are so fascinated by visual images? Because I look at your Hidden Color series, and that it was like so high quality, and the people were just like glued, like wow. So do you think that although we may not like it, that symbol in itself is the ultimate victory that we need?
And that's the thing. We got to stop resting on symbols, because the thing is, we think, okay, we're not getting nothing, so just a symbol of us getting something, that's good enough, so let's celebrate for 50 years. This is why we go down to Selma and do Selma marches, which is nothing but a symbolic victory. Selma, nothing really became accomplished in Selma. Selma is gentrified. The black people down there are struggling. So we got to get off these symbolic victories. That's why with the Hidden Color series, we'll put the information out there. And at the very end, we start saying solutions. When you leave this theater, this is what you need to do. So we can stop just resting on the symbolic victories.
In terms of solutions, it seems as though, you know, I listen to a lot of different people speak. A lot of people, different people have different solutions, and it seems as though that's when the egos start to clash. When this brother has a economic solution, but then this brother says, you know, they make the money that we gotta. It's about revolution. Then another brother might have a health solution, and this brother, and it seems as though instead of everybody staying in their lane, everybody seems to clash sometime with their solutions or what they think might benefit black people the most. So what advice would you give to the black race or the black man who seems to, like, leaders? I mean, we could go back to Frederick Douglass. Who was he beefing with? Frederick Douglass? W.E.D.? No, that was Garvey. I'm sorry, that's what I meant. Garvey and W.E.B. Du Bois. It seems as though it ain't just this generation. It ain't just Malcolm's generation. I mean, it go way back where these black giants just always seem to clash with each other. So what do you think is the solution to the black giants with different programs not clashing with each other no more?
And that goes back to what our brother Neely Fuller talks about is us having a code. We got to have a code of conduct, meaning whatever differences we have, the ultimate code is we're going to empower each other as black people no matter what. Just like the white supremacists. White people, they don't agree on everything. They beef on a lot of stuff, but the minute they're threatened with some type of black empowerment, they all get on the same page. Let me tell you something. CNN and Fox, they try to act like they're opposites, but let something go down like a Mike Brown or a Trayvon Martin, you can't tell what network is different from the other. They both start sounding the same. They put on the same white supremacists to regurgitate the same white supremacist talking points so that jurors will pick up on that and use that in the court system. They go right into code mode and start using code words like thug and hoodlum and gang. They're real good at these code words, so we got to start getting code words even if we have differences, and that's the problem that we have.
And thinking about Bambaataa, and I also seen the show you did on the OJ case, and the show that they had on, what was it, FX Network or something like that. Do you think sometimes we're like, and even thinking about Bill Cosby, who else out there that's getting dragged right now? Do you think that we're too quick to defend these brothers in the media, even though we might think they're wrong deep down inside, because we feel like we might side with white supremacy if we don't? So a lot of our leaders, sometimes they get away with all types of shit. Like some people might say, man, don't say shit about Bambaataa. You know what the fuck he did for hip hop culture? It's like they got this defense where you can't say nothing about their black leader because they deep down inside they feel as though if you attack their black leader, then you're automatically a sellout.
Now I want you to look at something. Look at TV. When you look at black people, it's very easy for us to get on TV to attack other black celebrities. We do it. They put black people on TV all the time to talk about Cosby and shoot him down, talk about Mike Brown and shoot him down. But you notice in white society, even when a white person does something wrong to a black person, especially if they do something wrong to a black person, you never see white people really come out and talk against that white person. Like, remember Dog the Bounty Hunter he got caught saying all that crazy stuff about black people. You didn't see any white people going in on him. Look at the Hispanic community. George Zimmerman. Tell me one Hispanic leader that condemned George Zimmerman. None. Look at Peter Liang. Show me any Asian person the cop who shot our brother Akai Gurley. They protested for him. Yes. They protested for him. Nobody came out and said, hey, that was kind of wrong. He shot the guy. He should go to jail. They didn't say that. They got on code. Well, your code is you do not side with other people against your group. We're the only ones who do that, and we're the only ones who lose. That's why if Bill Cosby did what y'all say he did, which I don't believe he did, but you deal with that. Don't get me to come out here and be your mascot. If you think he did that, well, you deal with it. They get us to be their mascots, and that's getting off code. And you will never get respect being another group's mascot against your own people for the crumbs they give you, because that's all they do is give you a plate of crumbs. You're not even coming up.
I remember they said probably about a month ago, they said, and I think it was in the Facebook headquarters or something like that, the staff was crossing out Black Lives Matter and writing All Lives Matter and all that crazy shit. I know you got a social network, about to start. Was it More Us? More Us. Okay. Talk to the people about this social network platform. I think it's you're getting busy, you're doing your thing out here. So I want you to talk to the people about the social network platform that in the app that you're about to come out with.
Yeah, we have an app called More Us, MOORUS, at moreus.com. It's going to be released next month. And it was a response to all of the censorship going on over at Facebook. Because understand, social media is the new media now. Because whenever stuff goes down with news stories, especially with black people, there's a media blackout. They will not tell you certain things that's happening live. I remember being down in Ferguson the first night everything went down. The media wasn't out there. They weren't out there when the tanks and all that stuff were rolling down the street and they were tear gassing people and throwing smoke bombs. They didn't show that on the TV. What they did, they sent Don Lemonade out there a couple of days later to get everybody reacting and rioting and burning down the store, the one little store they burned down. So there's a media blackout. And also I've noticed most of the information was getting online, on Twitter and Facebook. But some of these uprisings, they will create a hashtag in the streets, and Instagram and Twitter, they'll kill the hashtag. They'll censor the hashtag. So we're going to have to start using social media to communicate when some stuff is going down and not worry about the hashtag getting censored or shut down. And also with Facebook will let black people twerk. They'll let you put up fight videos. They'll let it get millions of views. They have no problem with that. The minute you start talking about empowering yourself as black people, getting some money together, I've seen dozens of people's pages just mysteriously disappear. You get put in what they call Facebook jail, for 30 days. They put me in there for about 30 days and 10 days one day. So many people I know who are talking about empowerment, your page gets shut down with Facebook. Yet the white supremacists can get on Facebook and post guns, talk about openly killing black people. I remember they had a picture of Trayvon Martin when he was dead. They didn't want to take it off Facebook. Facebook said that wasn't a violation of their policy. So when Facebook, we found out that they have a bunch of racist suspects up there crossing out Black Lives Matter, nobody's surprised. We've been saying that Facebook was racist for years.
What's the official, because you got the social network coming out, the app. What's the official lineup for Hidden Colors 4? Who's officially on it? Everybody.
Oh, yeah, we got some great people. We got a few of the people from the original 3 series. We got Brother Kaba, Brother Phil Valentine. We got Brother Dr. Boyce Watkins. He's new in this one. He's never been in any of them before. We have Patricia Newton. She's another psychiatrist out of Baltimore. We brought back Anthony Browder. We got James Smalls. He's getting it in. James Small is spitting hot fire. We got a little bit of Delbert Blair right before the brother died. Right before he died, man. Yeah. Right before the brother died, man. Yeah, shout out to Brother Delbert Blair. We got Killer Mike. He's spitting some hot fire in it. We got a brother Dennis Kimbrough out of Atlanta. He's in it. We have, who do we have? I got a brother from London. I met over in London when I was doing a lecture named Robin Walker. He has a great book called When We Ruled. And I think you can only get the book out there in Europe. Have you heard of that book before, bro? That book is a beast, man. The book is a beast. So I got a lot of good people like that, man. And again, the movie's going to be out in May 26th in select theaters nationwide. And it's gonna take people on a ride.
That's powerful, man. Definitely go check that out, and definitely check for the brother's social media platform when it comes out. More Us, right? Okay, now when the Hidden Colors first came out, I mean, like I said in the beginning, it revolutionized consciousness. I mean, it took it, if it was here, it took it way up there. I was watching your YouTube channel last year, and I think the title of it was Tariq Nasheed Speaks on the conscious community. And I watched it, and I was a little confused by some of the things you said. You mentioned how you did not make Hidden Colors specifically for the conscious community, or you didn't have the conscious community in mind. So when I heard that, being that I immediately thought about Hidden Colors 1, and I'm saying, damn, I remember Phil. When I first came into consciousness and I started hearing about these brothers, the year was probably 1999, 2000, right before 9/11. So my first video was shout out to a brother named Big Man who used to be on 125th. It was a Booker T. Coleman lecture at the Dempsey Center. So I'm looking at the lineup. I'm saying Booker T. Coleman. They had him in the Dempsey Center Soul Brothers Boutique. Phil Valentine. I used to always see Sarnetta bring him in. James Smalls, they used to always bring him in. And there was a time before social media that you could only watch these brothers on VHS tapes. So I'm saying to myself, damn, why would Tariq Nasheed say that if everybody who, that's your phone, if everybody who seems like everybody who's on Hidden Colors 1 comes straight out of the conscious community. And you just took it to a new level. So it's like, we salute you. It seems like, why would the brother say that about the conscious community when the people that he has in his program is the ones that elevated his platform to the next level?
And we got to understand what the conscious community is. The conscious community from the 80s and the 90s, it ain't the same damn conscious community now. Let's be very clear. Brothers like John Henry Clark, Dr. Ben, Brother Kaba, Phil Valentine, these people have put in work, for real work. They've gone up against scholars. They've worked in the system, challenged the system. These people put in real work. Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, she's going up against real white supremacists. This sister's global with her ism. These niggas now just like to sit around and debate on bullshit. That's what I didn't make the film for, because these dudes have the information and they ain't doing nothing with it. And that's the problem. So what I wanted to do is get these scholars that I loved and respected, got their information, and got the information that I know, because, again, I got a lot of information from traveling around the world myself, put the film together and gave it to the masses outside of just the conscious community, because a lot of people in the conscious community, they already know a lot of this stuff. But the average person who's into hip hop, or the average college student, or the average person who likes watching BET, they don't know. So I really had them in mind, so we can stop making it such an underground thing and get everybody on code so we can know this information and build from there.
Last year, I did a show with Professor Griff and Zaza Ali.
Yeah.
We were talking about strip club culture, and I think Jada Pinkett Smith had wrote a letter, something about strippers and about trafficking. It was about sex trafficking. And somehow the conversation got steered and your name got mentioned. Zaza, I think you had put out a flyer of some girls in a hot tub or something like that. A meme. Okay, that's a proper name, a meme. And I guess Zaza didn't like it. So she mentioned your name. She was saying, you know, you should know better or whatever. I don't want to misquote the sister, but, you know, the people could go and listen to it if they want to. But in the black community, they say when a woman hits you, you don't hit her back. If we could look at it verbally, we could say Zaza verbally hit her and you hit her back. You did more. You came back swinging. So do you have any regrets with how you approach the sister, being that you have a certain level of prestige in the black community, and do you think that brothers should change their way of approaching women, because women will take advantage of brothers if they have that mentality of, I'm going to just let you keep hitting me like I'm a punching bag, and I'm not going to hit you back verbally or physically. I'm not just talking about physically, but verbally as well.
Right. Well, you know, anytime a person comes at you or makes an accusation, the unfortunate thing about the accuser, you can't dictate how a person is going to respond. That's why you better tread lightly with who you deal with. That's 48 laws of power. Know who you starting a war with. And that's just the way of the world. So, you know, I'm really not the dude for anybody to come at on no level unless, you know, they ready to go at it like that, especially with something false, because what they were accusing was some false stuff, and they were making kind of false references, and I really didn't appreciate that. So I responded the way I responded, and I have no beef or no problem with them. But again, if anybody makes an accusation and try to allege something and paint a person in a certain way, they have a right to respond any way they need to respond to defend themselves. So that's why we got to be very careful about what we say about people and how to not try to shame or try to besmirch a person. We got to get off that, because we're all in the same business of empowerment. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm not really trying to get into no beefs with folks. I've done that in the streets, so I'm not trying to use my forum or my platform to get into beefs with anybody. We should all be on the same page of empowerment. This is why I got so many wonderful scholars together to talk about empowerment and what we need to do for solutions.
In terms of pop culture, brother, when I analyze the youth and their movements and how they move, it seems as though 10 years ago, 15 years ago, the hustler was embraced a little bit more. I look at Jay-Z and his persona as Iceberg Slim. I look at the other hustlers. Even when Rick Ross first came out, he had this real hustler persona to him. That's where he gets his name, Rick Ross. And you fast forward to 2016, it seems as though the drug users being getting a little more shine now. You got the Travis Scotts out there who talks about how many pills they pop. You got Future who's talking about popping pills and drinking lean. You got Lil Wayne who stayed with cups, and brothers they're experimenting with more drugs. It's not just weed. When I was young watching Wu-Tang Clan, they used to roll Philly blunts and just talk about weed, and maybe they talked about a little more. But it's just a lot of drug use going on, a lot of experimentation with black people. Once again, like I said earlier with the plastic surgery, shit I thought we would never get into. I never thought black people will pop as many pills, Xanax, perks, and all that shit. Where did that come from? And what advice would you have to the youth out there?
Oh, man, that's a great question, man. Right now, you have to understand the average hip hop fan is a white hipster. See, most people who buy rap and hip hop are white. We know that. The record labels know that. About 70%. So now, when you have all these artists going out there, going on tour and getting into the game, they're interacting with their white fans or their white friends, and their white friends will get them and say, hey, try this. Try this drug, try that drug. And black people, unfortunately, we will follow anything the white supremacists do. But the thing is, they will do things, but it won't be a detriment to their society like it's a detriment to ours. And I tell black people who have children who have white friends, don't let your black children follow the white friends, because the white kid can get away with stuff the black kids can't. The white kid can pop pills and do heroin and have a pipe in his hand. A cop will see him and like, hey, get out of here with that pipe. A black kid do the same thing, you're going to get 20, 30 damn years plus trafficking, and the niggas with you going to get the same amount for being a part of your gang. So we can't do what they do. White supremacy always sets you up like that. See, the white supremacists will try a little something in front of you and have you do it with them, and then we jump into it, just like the Native Americans. When they brought alcohol to the Native Americans, they're like, hey, try this. I'll drink some of this fire water. So the Indians said, hell, I'll drink it too. But the white supremacists, they drunk just a little. The Indians drunk it and got drunk, and they're drunk on these reservations to this day, while the white people own all those casinos that they're supposed to get. So we got to understand the games that they play, and we got to stop falling for that trick all the time. The last word is just go get Hidden Colors 4. Go see Hidden Colors 4. When Hidden Colors 4 comes out, May 26th, check that out. Go to hiddencolorsfilm.com. And follow me on Instagram at Tariq Elite so you can get updates on the new website that's coming. And just elevate your mind. When you watch the Hidden Colors series, be sure to get all the books from the scholars so that you can really elevate your game. Brother Phil Valentine has a wonderful book out. Boyce Watkins has a book out. Anthony Browder has books out. So the knowledge is there, the information is there. Get the information so you can pass it down to the next generation.
And with that, peace, family.
Peace, family. This brother Rich from UGR, urging all my viewers and subscribers to help support the channel by donating just $1 to the UGR PayPal account. We appreciate the viewership and support, and we understand the power of $1. If you benefit in any way, shape, or form, we ask that you donate $1, whether it be monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly, or yearly, so that we can build our brand to compete with the NBCs, the MTVs, and the Foxes of the world. I figure since Kanye could ask Mark Zuckerberg for $1 billion, I could ask my subscribers to donate $1 so I could make the best possible content possible. The main objective of this channel is to inspire you to become the greatest version of yourself. So hopefully throughout the years of you watching this program, you have been inspired to become the greatest version of yourself. If you would like to donate, you could go to www.paypal.com and send a donation to richandmerit7@yahoo.com. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your program.